Welcome to this holiday ZBrush sculpt. My name is Valerie Berrios Reyes, and I'll be your host for today in this demonstration. As you may have seen, we're going to be sculpting the Grinch, Mr. Grinch, one of my favorite characters. And you might say, Valerie, you always say that, and I'm like, you are correct. I have a lot of favorite characters. I'm a character artist at heart, so I appreciate all the characters. He's one of my favorite ones, and I was actually watching him yesterday. I wanted to get in the mood of the holidays, a mood in happiness and snow and just cold. So we are sculpting him for today. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions during the demo, please don't be afraid to ask, okay? After you may have seen me before, we have been doing this for, I would say, 5 years, 7-ish. I have been around for a bit, but I enjoy my work and what I do, and I enjoy talking to everybody here. I specialize in creating characters. That's what I do. I have created a couple around from time to time. That's what I love doing. I've been a course director here at Full Sail in the game art degree for a couple years now. I like to say 5+ because time just passes by so fast these days, but it's almost 10 years, so I'm super happy about that. But as I said, today we're going to go over the Grinch. We're going to talk about the structures. I aim for Jim Carrey's Grinch, which he is definitely one of my favorites and the character that I grew up with, right? That's kind of like the time where I had those movies. I'm from that time, so I appreciate the new generations as well. The animation movie or animated movie. Loved. It was so fun. It was so enjoyable. And I do appreciate all the Grinches that have gone before and after, and hopefully in the future. So first, let's get started. And I'm going to show you what I have on my ZBrush, how I kind of came about the idea. And to be honest, it was the social team at Full Sail. They were like, hey, do you want to do a sculpt again this year for the holidays? And I was like, yes. We have done so many before. We have done devil pixies. We have done Krampus. We did once for a holiday on December a few years back. We have done the Blue Lagoon monster or Black Lagoon, one of those. So there's been so many, and even The Last of Us as well. Yes, that was a fun one that year because we were commemorating the series and everything. So if you have not seen these, they're available on YouTube. So you can always go back to the playlist on Full Sail University's YouTube and check those out. I give so many cool tips, and you might say, Valerie, you're repeating some tips, and I'm like, 100%. Practice makes better. Always practice and always repeat those tips and just continue honing your skills as much as possible. And you see me here, and I enjoy doing these with you all, having a conversation. Just doing these for 2 hours makes me happy, and I do have a lot of fun, okay? And it's practice for me as well. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop practice, right? So let's jump into ZBrush, and I'll show you what I will kind of aim for. Again, I'm going for Jim Carrey. That's going to be the idea behind the sculpt. But I do want to give it a little bit of a hint of a stylization, even though he is a Whoville. And they're kind of very stylized, right? But I do want to go a little bit more in depth with that. And we'll go through it when we start sculpting. So first things first, let me actually push this over here. Opening my PureRef. Double clicking, there you go. Just the idea behind it. Of course, like I said, Jim Carrey, great actor. Love him and everything. He's been amazing. Ace Ventura is one of my favorites characters. He's hilarious, apart from the Grinch. But this here, I think it was amazing how he went through all those transformations during the makeup process. Of course, let's appreciate also all the makeup and film overall professionals, because that is amazing. So I found this online. I was like, yeah, it's perfect. It gives me the basic shapes of what we need to approach for our sculpt, which is one of the things that you want to make sure that you understand and you find in your concepts. You want to be clear with your concepts in shape, proportion, scale, lighting, texture, any of that. You want to make sure it's there for you so you don't have to second guess yourself, so you don't have to be like, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do there? So try to find when you're finding concepts, the clearest of them all, I always like to say. So here, this is perfect because, hey, I'm going for this direction a bit more, even though I'm going to change a couple things later on. But because this has a lot of essentially fur, hair-like type of style, we're going to be sculpting that. And I want to make sure that we go over the process because I don't believe we have kind of approached hair before. It takes time. That's one of the reasons. It just takes a little bit more extra time to give the love that it deserves, okay? So remind yourself, or me reminding you, fur and hair, anything like that takes time. If it's hair cards, if it's sculpted, it still takes time, okay? So just be aware when you go into that mindset of, I want to create hair, I want to create fur, have that extra time for yourself. Have a lot of patience as well. There's a lot of layering, there's a lot of moving things around, there's a lot of silhouette shaping that you have to do. So just be aware, hair within itself, it's its own, I wouldn't say monster, but it's like great thing. Like it's its own great thing. So from here, that is the idea. And I kind of went into Photoshop, and this is a technique that I've seen around used a lot, and it's great to visualize what you are sculpting. I personally prefer to, and I've mentioned this before, separated things, chunks, objects, separated objects, appending objects is the way that I like to sculpt. I feel like my brain understands this better. And I always tell my students, check and see, what does your brain understand better? Is it pulling things around, or is it appending and adding things to the scene? And I think that's very important because I feel like discovering that as a character artist just made my life easier and my work faster. But yeah, that is the idea behind all that. And of course I have my needy awesome pure ref here on the side because I love it. It's great. I can just put all the images in there and call it a day. So I'm gonna actually have it a little bit smaller. And we're gonna start with a base mesh. If you do not know where to find this, it's going to be on the light box if you're kind of just, you know, following through. Oh, that's another sculpt that I'm doing on the side. And you're gonna go to projects, and for projects, you're gonna go projects, head planes. I feel like this is really good for a start. It doesn't give you a lot of information. Cancel that. Coma is the hotkey to close the light box. It doesn't give you a lot of information, it's just there. For today, I felt like that. Sometimes I feel like just, I'm gonna take a sphere and I'm gonna push things around. Sometimes I feel like I'm just gonna take a super basic base and then start from there. So for today, we're gonna do that. First things first, I'm going to make sure I have geometry Dynamesh on, and I might want to do polish. I've been a lot into polish, and if you have not seen polish, I think it's pretty neat, especially if you're doing stylized characters, but I can show you really quickly. You can sculpt something, and I'm using BCB, which is clay buildup, and you can control left click and drag on the canvas, and it will hold all the edges, which is really nice. I feel like it's really, really nice. So if you like that kind of feel of almost stylization, it's really good for that. But again, very basic. We're not gonna need the ears, because if we notice, we don't need the ears, right? The hair or fur / fur is kind of just covering it. So it's great that we don't need that. So at this point, I'm just going to clay build up and start getting rid of those. We don't need them, right? And I'm just gonna soften them, and I'm going to click and drag again to Dynamesh. And I think I'm gonna leave polish off for now. I'm gonna start getting those super nice edges, but I don't need them at this point. I like to kind of add them when I already have some, I would say, primary, secondary shapes, right? We have some volumes, we have some just overall shaping of the face or anything that you're doing. I like to add it then and see how it looks. And I try it out. Again, it doesn't have to be on for everything. Try it out and see if you like it. But yeah, as we go, again, if you want to have or ask any questions, do let me know. I'm here. So let's start with the overall shape. I feel like the overall shape of his head is almost like a pointy egg. If you see it, it's like very, very pointy. So that's the first thing that I want to do. And with the fur and everything, we are going to add him after. We're going to do a blockout after we do the blockout for the face and the head, because that is very important. You always want to have a good base before you start adding any type of hair or fur or sculpt anything. You want to have a base that's good. So we're gonna start, and I'm gonna smooth everything. I'm just gonna shift and then smooth the entire thing because I don't need a lot of those edges. All of those are mostly gonna be gone. The point of it is for me to just see, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, and just have something there. But first things first, we are going to do the folds. All these folds around the mouth are very, very important. So I'm gonna do a very, very, very light clay and just start to get that shape of the face. And I'm gonna integrate the mouth and everything around it a bit more, right? And I'm gonna do a little bit on the head as well, because again, that head is a very interesting shape. So you wanna make sure you get that the first thing. So we're gonna start moving around. And he is very wide right there. And his neck is not as thick, so be careful if you're using a base. Also make sure you change the neck, okay? They're not always as like wide. And necks, I feel like they're very important. Like sometimes I'm creating a character and it's a cutesy anime girl, and then the neck is like super thick, and I'm like, yeah, make sure you change that as well, okay? I mean, it could be like that, but all I'm saying is if you're utilizing a base, always check the neck. They tend to be a little bit wider. But yeah, from here, I'm just gonna go a little bit lower on the neck as well. I don't like the bust to be just so like up the face. Just give it a little bit more space as well. All this is going to change later because I'm gonna actually, I think I'm gonna do the shoulders. I'm gonna cut it at the shoulders. I love that kind of style. But this is me just brainstorming. I also think I want to do an arm, and maybe he has like a little, you know, Christmas tree bowl or something, right? So ideas, I'm brainstorming. But for now, let's keep going. So second thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that the eyes are a little bit indented. I feel like it's very, very soft right now. So we're gonna make sure we start putting where the eyes are gonna be. And I have this really, really nice one here. Really, really almost side, 3/4 side. That gives me the ability of, okay, cool, this is a little bit deeper. This, we can move it a bit forward and start pushing things around. Again, I did build it before, because if I don't build it before, then you're not going to have anything to move. There's not going to be any mass to move, okay? And how much mass to put in there, to be honest, is going to be how you feel. Like, how do you feel about it? Is it too thick? Is it too thin? Can I move it? Can I not move it? So a lot of it is going to be on how you feel, how it's going. So I'm gonna start adding my bridge right here a bit more. There you go. There you go. I'm gonna do a little bit less intensity. And then now I'm gonna start adding, okay, this is gonna be my eye area, this is gonna be indentation, and then here around here, it's gonna be my zygomatic, right? Which is gonna be my cheekbone area. So you wanna be like, okay, at least mark it there. It doesn't have to be that intense or that pronounced, but you wanna mark it. You're gonna be like, okay, that's gonna go down into it, and then we're gonna have the cheekbone in the back. And then somewhere around here, the hair fur is gonna start, okay? So just marking places so you understand what's happening, it's going to be the best way while you're starting to sculpt. I think that's really nice. The nose could be together or the nose could be separate. That's going to be on you if you decide you want it to be at least like the nose itself, the little brown slash dark green spot here. I personally would just do it together. But again, if we don't have a lot of topology for it at this point, because we're utilizing Dynamesh in a slightly lower resolution, then I would just make sure that I have the space for it there. Again, I'm going to just build, and I'm going to be like, that's going to be my nose. And that's awesome. So from there, I'm going to start, and I'm going to... Yeah, I actually like how that's going. Maybe a little bit more poofy here. But again, we're just starting with the basic shapes. Let's focus on the head as well, because the head should not be that square at the top, right? We talked about it being very, very almost like egg, pointy egg. Almost like a cone head. That's funny, but almost like a cone head if you haven't seen that movie. It's interesting. So we can go around, and then I am using at this moment the flatten tool or the train dynamic. I love that. It's really nice to go around and just flatten things. It is I would say, what is it? Like, you will learn to love it, I would say. That's gonna be the the idea behind it. But I like it. I really do like it. It's really nice to flatten things really quickly and fast. Apologies if you hear me a little bit under the weather. I'm under the weather a little bit. So, we have a question. So, how do you decide when to stay loose and rough or drafted versus when to start refining details? Wow, that's an excellent question. That is a great question. Well put. Let me see. How do I answer that? So, it's oddly a feeling. I don't want to say it is only a feeling, but it is oddly a feeling where because I do this all the time when I'm sculpting, there's a process in my pipeline where I stop and I'm like, okay, I need to stop here before I continue doing tertiary details, before I continue doing any surface detail. So I would say that is the point in time. So I would say between secondary and tertiary details. So once you start secondary, once you start placing the volumes and moving things around and have a good silhouette, and then you're starting to jump into, oh, I'm going to go for my skin details, or I'm going to go for my wrinkles, or I'm going to go for very, very fine details. That's what I would say it's the spot. That's my spot. My spot is like, okay, I'm going to stop here because I know I'm going to have to have more resolution for this. I'm going to have to retopologize this. So that is the answer to that. It's going to be between secondary and tertiary before you jump into tertiary. So that way you already have some shapes defined, and then again you go back a little bit and then you're like, okay, I'm going to retopologize this and I'm going to continue with tertiary. But overall, at first, when you're doing shapes like this very quickly, like a very, very quick sculpt, you should do loose. You should do loose strokes, do very fast strokes. Don't think about it too much, because when you're doing any type of blockout, any type, on anything, it should be very fast. It should be something that you're barely thinking about. You are seeing the overall structures as a whole, not focusing on the details. So start with super, super light, and then once you start establishing those shapes and you start jumping into tertiary, that's when you would decide, okay, that's where I need to clarify, clean my shapes and my lines and everything. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm gonna do that, but great question. And it will come eventually. You will know yourself once you practice more and more when is your time. Because I feel sometimes it's different. Sometimes people decide, oh, I want to do this or end this earlier because maybe I can do this in Painter. Maybe I can do this detail over here. So it will also depend on your pipeline itself. And this is going to be a little bit more lower. So this is actually going to be all the way around. And I'm going to start making this a little bit rounder. And I can always change the thickness, but for now I feel like that's a little bit more thin than it should be. And yep, I definitely will go a little bit more pointy at the top. it's an interesting shape on the head. So, but yeah, we're establishing the eye area. We're establishing the snout, mouth area. And then I would say go a little bit more wider at the bottom. But yeah, if you decide, it is always recommended or always not recommended to just throw details onto it, right? If there's not established shapes or volumes or silhouette, then you're just adding in details and they're not going to look correct. So that's also why you want to make sure that the first faces, primary and secondary, the blockout and everything, kind of just read better. Because then afterwards, what you need to do is just add the lines and then it will look good. But if you don't have the established surface or details or volumes, the details won't read well. Okay, so that's good-ish. Again, I'm not worrying about it too much for now because I'm just placing things together, placing where things are. And his brow area is going to be around this section, right? And then we have a lot of before his brow or his entire brow. It's a little bit more wider, so be aware of that. And I think I'm going to do him with his eyes closed for now. I don't know, I kind of like that. We'll see. This is how my process is. I'm just like, within me sculpting, I just think about many things. I'm just like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? It's okay. It's normal. It's okay. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? That's just how my brain kind of just goes around. And make sure you're establishing the skull and everything as well. And I'm gonna have to go a little bit more wider. If I go a 3/4 and it doesn't look like it has that shape in the back, I'm just gonna push it a bit more. It needs to be there, that back of the skull, a bit more. And this is way rounder, and I'm just making him just wide and almost chunky because I feel like that he has a very round face. Round egg face, or egg-shaped face. Then from here, I do like to establish, okay, I do need my chin. My chin is barely there, right? So he does have a chin. I'm going to take a move tool, and I'm just going to do right around here, and then just establish that chin. And I'm going with it, and just moving it around. I do have symmetry on, which X turns it on if you haven't play with that yet, but it's really nice. And then I do have to still establish where my jaw is going to be, because yes, there's a lot of folds and kind of things kind of affecting it, but for it to break the surface and actually read well in 3D, I am going to establish the jaw. It doesn't have to be that sharp, okay? It's very soft actually, but I'm going to go afterwards with clay build-up, and I'm going to round it out, and that's going to help a lot. But it's still going to help with establishing it because he does have a jaw. It's just under all the cheeks. Or the cheek fat, I would say. And then that established it really nicely. You see, it's still soft. It's not as sharp as we had it before. But making it sharp, it helps you, and it helps the sculpt and the light read well. So then after that, what I like to do is, now let's go into the eye section, because I feel like this here is a little bit too wide, but again, it's fine because we started slowly, right? So now, before I do that though, I want to do the same thing that I did with the jaw, where I kind of establish where my skull is at this moment. Kind of push that down a bit more. And then you can soften a couple things here and there. Again, I don't tend to soften everything because sometimes leaving things slightly messy or slightly, sculpted or clay buildup, I like it. I don't know, I like how it looks. It will depend on what you're doing, of course, but I'm gonna flatten some areas here. And I still feel like his head might need to be a little bit wider. And it's gonna be at the bottom, and it's okay. Again, it's you realizing, okay, this might be too cone-like. Now let's establish what we need to fix to do that. And it could be a big move tool, doing it at the bottom, or it could also be pressing E and scaling it side to side, right? I like to do both. Sometimes I do both. Sometimes I do the one or the other, depending on the result that I see. But maybe actually making it a little bit wider side to side helps me. And this is just something I discovered myself. Sometimes I'm sculpting something and I realize, oh wait, I'm making this too long vertically. Why? And it's just my brain, the way it's kind of just starting to, maybe it could be the base that you start with, or just the way that you're sculpting. But I always know I have to go back and check, okay, do I need to make this slightly wider than either moving it or scaling it? What's happening here? So I know that I do that to myself. I realize that. But thankfully, because I realized that, I can always go back and change it, which is why I love ZBrush so much, because I have the ability to do that quickly. And then the neck is gonna go a little bit lower. And I would say this might need to go a little bit back. And same with this, a little bit back. I want to bounce it out a bit more. Just bounce it out a bit more. But then from here, I'm gonna go and just do that. And I know it's still a little bit more pointy at the top, but to be honest, that's gonna be covered. So if this pointiness is good enough for me to establish the overall shape, that's fine. I don't need to be exact to how pointy it is, because that's gonna be covered by the mohawk that we're gonna do. So for now, this is good. If I need to fix it later, then we can reestablish the proportions compared to the eyes and everything else. So now I'm just gonna establish the eyes because I know it's bothering me. They always bother me. If you've seen my past sculpts, I'm always like, the eyes are the most important thing for me, just because they need to look good. That's like one of the first things we see when we talk to each other and, you know, just see overall things. So here I'm going to soften everything and see what we have. So we have the brow area, which actually it could be higher. If you notice right here, if I'm gonna get closer to this, it definitely could be higher this distance from this distance. Oh, we have another question. So another question says, when do you know you're done with a project? Is it hard to decide? And at what point do you feel comfortable saying this is the finished product? I love that question because, to be honest, I feel like it's never finished. I'm being totally honest with you. I feel like it's never finished, especially if you know that there's so many things behind it. Like, you know, you've created this, you know, the things that are wrong with it, the things that are right with it. Okay. So I feel like it's never finished. And that's one of the things that me as an artist, I've discovered. Yeah, things might never be finished. I will call them finished because XYZ. Maybe I would say that for me, I call things finished when I understand what I wanted to learn from that specific piece. So if I wanted to learn hair, and of course I did the sculpt and everything, and I'm like, okay, I want to do the hair, then once I do the hair, I'm like, okay, I'm finished with this piece. So I feel like that's my mentality. Once I start understanding, okay, I wanted to learn this from this, then I'm done. I'm going to move on to something else and then learn something else from that sculpt. And I think that helps a lot with, you know, moving on from sometimes the obsessions that we have as artists. Because trust me, I know we created this and we're like, this is our baby. Which is true. But again, I feel like that helps, like, okay, let me put this down. Let me do something different. Let me learn something different from this XYZ thing that I'm creating new, to then move on from the one that you have. But I feel like a lot of that is also depending on what you're creating, right? Because sometimes things that you create, and I have sculpts around still. I have so many sculpts because I like to do quick sculpts and I like to just focus on things sometimes. A lot of things are going to depend on what you're creating. So wait, let me establish the mouth here. There you go. That's a little bit intense. So let's say, for example, that you're creating an entire character, you know, you also have to give it time, because creating something that's, you know, that may be a lot, you have to give it itself, you have to give it time. So sometimes I see character artists having, like, doing a character, and they've been doing that character for 2 years, right? And they're learning new things within that character for 2 years. So again, it depends. I feel like it depends. But for me personally, it was just starting to create new things and starting to think what to learn from those new things that helped me kind of just move on from that and kind of call it a day. But sometimes I don't tend to actually go back to sculpts. That's one of my, I guess, pet peeves. I would say I don't go back to sculpts. I feel like if I do go back, I'm just like, I'm done. Like I'm done with this. I don't want to go back to it. I just prefer to do something else, something new. Hopefully that answered the question. But yeah, let's establish the mouth a bit more, because it's kind of bothering me. So if we go around and do a clay build up, and I'm gonna do what we had, and I know I'm fighting it, but I want it to be very, very light and soften it, and then take a damn standard BDS and then just kind of establish it there. Like, the mouth is there, right? That's what we're trying to do. And then we have the chin, which is not chinnin. It's definitely not chinnin. We need to make it more chinnin. So we are gonna chin this a bit more. Even if we soften it later, that's fine. But I feel like we need it to establish it more. It feels a little light. And always go in this view, always for your mouth and for everything, and you're gonna have to push it out. This is very important. You're gonna have to push things out, because if not, things are gonna be flat from this view, and that's not fun. So I'm gonna do chin again. And I'm gonna chin it, and then we're gonna establish a lot of this at the bottom a bit more, because it's a little bit dark in here. So I know for a fact that it's a little bit dark, so I'm gonna have to push it a bit more. I just know ZBrush. I love ZBrush. I always say ZBrush is the love of my life. 100%. I love it. It's just, I connected. You know what it is? It's just, it's awesome. So now we established the brow ridge area. We are going to start molding this a bit more. It's a little bit too thick here. If you notice, it's a little bit more pinched in the concept. So I'm just gonna clay build up that like that, and then I'm gonna start establishing the shapes a bit more, going down the cheekbone and nose area, just because, again, I'm establishing for myself, how is this going? Okay, no, my go in, my go out, and then I'm going to take clay build up, and I'm going in, and you're like, Valerie, why are you scratching all that? Because I'm also gonna build it up. But I am establishing the surface a bit more in that direction, and you see how I'm following the direction of what I'm seeing right here. A lot of that has to be followed. I feel like it helps establishing those forms a bit more. And then now I'm gonna start doing clay buildup, but don't forget to Dynamesh, okay? This is where I try polish. Do I like polish? Let's try it out. Before I do polish, and I know I said it last time, make sure you save. And I did. I was like, we should do a meme about that, because you should be saving, okay? Save as much as possible. So now, this here is a little bit lower. And I know we don't have the back, right? For the concept, but make sure you get the back. I am filling out the back with my previous knowledge of anatomy as much as possible, and, you know, previous knowledge of characters that I've done. But if you do not know any parts within the structure that you're creating, look for the information. That means that you have missing gaps in your mind. You don't understand what's happening there. How do I feel this? It's fine. Just go get the information. Go get a back of the head. It could be his, or it could be one that you want to just put in there that matches, okay? And then this here is bothering me there. There you go. I know there's a fold there, and that's why that's bothering me. There's a fold right here. But that's okay. So now move this a bit more, move this a bit more, and then we are good to go on that. Take a little bit of the side view and see what's going on with the side view on this one, because I know he has a very interesting forehead, and we're actually almost there. I feel like mine is a little bit too flat, but like I was saying, doesn't need to be a lot of movement. Just slightly take a move tool and push it up, okay? And then we might need to push it down later a bit more. Go from this view and check your brow ridge. All this needs to go out. You're building that kind of strong structure there, okay? So that needs to go out, and that's gonna help a lot with this shape there. And I'm gonna soften it very lightly, nothing too crazy, okay? Just very soft. Just very soft there. Okay, so now from here, I know I did say I want to do the eyes closed, but now I've convinced myself that I want them open. So let's append some eyeballs. Great questions, by the way. Keep them coming. These are great questions. So now I'm gonna append, and I should have appended something. Yes, I did. And I'm going to approximately do the size of an eye, and you should have approximately 3 eyes side to side or horizontally. So I would say 1, 2, and then the third one here. That's going to give you an approximation on how to kind of place those or the scale themselves. I just sometimes know that depending on the character, I might need to make them larger, make them smaller, depending on the character that you're creating. But essentially, anatomy-wise, it should be around that, and then half and half of the eye, side to side. And then I would say around there for now. Again, this is a blockout. We're still in the blockout phase. So that means I'm establishing it there, and it's probably going to move later. That's the mindset that I have. This is my blockout. I'm doing it really fast. It's probably going to move later. And then we have to establish the mouth as well, but that's going to be really easy since we did that line there. And it's looking really close to where it should be. Maybe a lot of more kind of like fat and shapes and volume here, but again, that doesn't have to be established right now. We're just establishing the directionality, where everything is placed. The eyes do need to be a little bit more deeper, so that means I'm gonna have to go in here and kind of just carve them out. You have a couple ways. I've seen artists create half spheres or half cylinders and then just do the bottom and the top, and I've done that 100% of your eyelids. You can, if it's helpful for you to establish it that way, you can. Most of the time what I do is I just do a I carve this out and I do it like in the shape of the eye. And you're like, that looks off. And I'm like, I know, it's fine. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make sure that it kind of goes around there. But that area at the bottom, it's going to be my bottom eyelid. And then this one at the top, again, it will depend on the character that you're creating, how much the brow and all that fat is kind of going over the eye. Sometimes you have to create it, sometimes you don't. Most of the time I do still create it because, to be honest, that's just me. I like to have it there even if it's not seen. Sometimes I'm like that. But I would say I'm gonna carve this in a bit more. The reason is because I don't like it to intersect with everything else. Sometimes I feel like it intersects too much. Not a fan of that. And then I'm gonna do a control left click on the canvas and I'm going to Dynamesh. See where polish is helping. Polish is helping in certain areas, but do I want it to help that much? That's where I kind of decide, maybe I don't want it on. I just want to have it rough like this, and then I soften areas a bit more later, because I might not want all these details that I kind of established there for myself to disappear. But again, test it for yourself and see if you like it or not. But now I'm gonna go back to the eye because I know these take me a lot of time because I am sometimes a perfectionist, which it's fun. So from here, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do Alt and Sculpt, so left click, and I'm gonna go over like that. And I know I'm using Dynamesh. This is a very, I would say, interesting tool. I love Dynamesh, but sometimes if it's too much of a tertiary detail, it will disappear it. So be careful. So that's why I just like roughly just like, oh, this is my eyelid. Awesome. You can mask, or you can also just do the same thing at the bottom. That's going to be your choice. I have been doing where I just either clay build up it. So I'm going to go and add it like that and start establishing my eyelids. And then I take a, let me see if I can move this with my pen, because I never move PureF with my pen. I'm gonna go into control right here, masks options, and I'm gonna do mask lasso. And that way I'm gonna do mask the top, take a move tool and kind of just push it. And you want to push it, but you want to push it following the eye shape, okay? You want to make sure that it's following the eye shape. You don't just want to, push it up and then that's it. Call it a day. Follow the eye shape. And that's going to be top and bottom. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to follow the structure of my eye. Same thing here. Follow the structure of my eye. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. We don't have to match it that much right now because we are just establishing an eye. We just want to make sure it looks like an eye. Not his eye specifically yet, just an eye. And then same thing over here. And very roughly, you want to start kind of establishing the shape. And I know there's some gaps, and I don't like gaps. You should not have gaps. But again, establishing the eye shape. And then I'm going to establish this eye shape. Pull everything down. Maybe this is a little bit too up because we are seeing his eye there. And then this is when I decide, okay, do I like how my eye is looking? Is it looking good? Are they too big? Are they too small? If they're too small, again, this is the time that you want to scale them, okay? Adjust them. I feel like they're looking good at this moment. Any movement that you need to do, you can always do it later as well. That's the power of ZBrush. You can always go back and you're like, I don't like this. Let me just adjust it a bit more. And I would do that a little bit more with that. Maybe that needs to go there. But for now, we don't have the other eye and it's looking a little off. So of course, let's move PureF around. And you see me moving PureF around, I just move it around everywhere at this point. There's so many menus that you kind of have to go around in ZBrush that, yeah, there's so many menus. So from here, I'm going to go into modify topology. I'm going to save. I'm going to say I'm going to save because I have to save. And this is just, I don't know, past trauma that I know that if I don't save and it crashes, I'm going to lose like 30 an hour, 12 hours, right? Make sure you save. Like I always say, if you don't remember, Alexa, put a timer for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you decide you don't want to lose. That's the timer that I would suggest. But then from here, I'm going to just mirror and weld. It's not bad established. I think it's good. I think it's not terrible. Then this is looking a little off here, but again, we're going to go back to this and we are going to establish that little like overbite lip that he has. I love that. It looks so good. The overall character creation and just how they did the character, it was just so interesting. So from here, sometimes I relate to his personality and I'm like, yeah, I relate. My Grinch is coming out sometimes. But then from here, very, very light. I'm gonna establish the eye, the lips, and that little like pout he has, which again looks very interesting. And then we are going to Dynamesh, but you're gonna see what's gonna happen. Oh, actually, it wasn't that terrible. I thought it was gonna actually break it more, but that's fine. The eye, though, interesting. I'm just gonna clay build up and merge it together and kind of just separate it a bit more if I need to. No, I do like, I like how it's established right now. He does have a lot of eye bags. So again, we established the under eyelid, but we are going to have to move some things around for him to have a little bit more bags, which we will. But now I'm gonna do what I should have done, and I'm going to establish the ocular area a bit more. So it's all this area here, and I'm just gonna scratch it, but I want to scratch it very, very lightly, okay? Very, very lightly, because look at what we did here earlier. Remember that we talked about the zygomatic or the cheekbone, and we have the cheekbone, and oh, we established it there, so it's already there, which is good. That's part of the process. And then I'm just slightly going to merge that out, make sure it's still there, and then that's why we established it earlier, because we don't need to do a lot if we already have it there. That's kind of my idea of things. If I have it there, do I need to do a lot? No. And then kind of just soften it, move things around a bit more. This needs to be rounder, but I'm flattening it right now because I want to establish the planes of it. And then we have a plane here, and then we have a plane there, and this is how I kind of go around it. And then this needs to be a little bit more rounder and everything. That's fine. But now I'm gonna go and soften this entire area and start putting the folds in there, because I feel like it looks kind of messy, but it has a purpose. Same with the cheekbone, it has a purpose. So now here I'm gonna go over, take a damn standard, and I think this might be a little bit farther. It could be a little bit farther, just very, very, very slightly, but I'm gonna establish the lines and see, do they look good? And then decide if I need to push that forward a bit more or less. But I like it like that, but we'll see. So now I'm gonna go and slightly take the Dynamesh slightly in resolution up. No, don't go too wild with the resolution, okay? I cannot tell you a number. This will depend on your scene, on whatever you're creating. I would say always try it out and see if it works for you. And I'm going to then Dynamesh again, and that way we have a little bit more resolution from what we had before, so these shapes will be better held. Sorry. So another question. Do you have a favorite tool or brush in ZBrush that you always come back to? Yes, I do. And it is the clay buildup. Actually, BCB is the hotkey, but it is the clay buildup. It's just such, I don't know, it's so, you can do so many things with it. So yes, my favorite brush is clay buildup. The second one, it is damn standard because I like to make lines. Who doesn't like to make lines, right? I like lines. So lines, really nice. And I always come back to those. And I have like, I feel like a lot of the artists or character artists that I know, they have a lot of favorite ones. So probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6 that they always come back to. And I know you will as well once you start doing ZBrush. And I would say my other one is the hair one. And I was talking about this to my student today. It is the extrude one that I always lose when I try to find it, but it's around here somewhere. It's the extrude one. I always go back to that one as well. Once I'm doing like hair and just overall fur and things like that, I like that one. So I wanted to say one that's a little bit more on the side, depending on what I'm doing, but that one's a good one too. Oh, and ZBrush does autosave. Next question. Do we learn 3D anatomy sculpting in Full Sail classes for the 3D art program? Yes, you do. Yes, you definitely do. You're going to have a couple of classes. I know Game Characters goes over it. That you will, you will go over anatomy tips and tricks from the instructor, and things like that. So yes, you will. I know you will, because I went through it and I had it. So that's when I kind of just started to do characters. I was like, wow, anatomy, it's awesome. And then it was really, really difficult, and I was like, I love it. It is really difficult to learn. I'm not gonna lie to you. But once you understand it, things just like open, and you're like, I understand all this. I understand how to mix this, how mix and match, how move this, how to move that, how to create different characters, and how to create different creatures, because you understand basic human anatomy. Essentially, everything is based on human anatomy. So if you understand that, I think it's going to be really, really helpful. But yes, the answer is yes. And if you're still in the process of thinking like, do I want to do that? Do I want to learn that? Anatomy is one of the things that I would say you need to know, and you should know. It's gonna it's gonna open so many doors and understanding, and you're gonna be like, wow, I can do so many things with this. So yes, anatomy is one of the things that you should know, and I would recommend you start understanding and learning and just basking yourself in it. And I do it all the time. Like sometimes a character artist mind, it's very, very interesting, because I sometimes, and even in animation, I feel like animators also do this when they see people around and they're like walking, and they're like, oh, this person is walking differently. It's animating or animation wise, or just how they are moving. It's very interesting. I do that also as well as a character artist. I'm like, oh, this person has an interesting face. Their hair is flowing this way. They have interesting ears. And I'm like, I don't want to be weird, but it's true. That's kind of how I just started seeing live and anatomy. It's just more of a, oh, this is very interesting. People are different, noses are different. Noses are up or down or smaller. So it's really, really interesting. So if you start visualizing yourself and what's around you like that also helps. I feel like it really, really does help. And then just have a kind of like a love for learning those things, more of an understanding of, oh, I love this. I love what I do. I love what I'm doing, what I want to do. And that will also help. Hopefully that helps as well to answer your question. But yes, sometimes I stare at people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stare. It's just like anatomically or just character wise, I'm always like trying to understand faces and just overall people. But yeah, that is it's fun. I think it's fun and it's interesting, and it's just, I love it. Like, I really, really love it. So establishing the shin again, we are moving to the folds. So I'm gonna do damn standard, and I'm gonna start with, okay, where my nose is. This is why I was like, oh, this may be a little bit too short, because how my nose is here and my fold is here, this might be a little bit too, not too bad actually, now that I'm looking at it, but it's okay. So I'm gonna do one fold here, which is the one that's gonna break that. I think that's very important. We're gonna do that, and it's gonna be like a medium pressure, okay? Nothing too intense. I would say medium pressure. You don't want to go like, that's my fold. You don't want to go breaking it. You want a very, very medium pressure. Oh, barely there. And then we have 1, 2, 3, and I do count them. 1, we have like a 2 here, maybe like a little bit more space, and then we have the third one. So maybe this one is slightly in between. Yeah, sure, that works. So I'm going to do that and that. And I'm going to start establishing that because, again, I want to start with the fur hair / her hair so you can see my process in it. But now I'm going to go and kind of, it goes around. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You're like, oh, does it have to be perfect? No, I'm just going and seeing what I'm doing. And then this kind of goes to the back a bit. That might be a little bit too harsh. And I do a lot of Control Z because I don't know, sometimes I don't like the lines that I create. I'm like, do I like it? No. Is it too harsh? Maybe. That's better. And I kind of just follow through until I decide I like that line. And I do that a lot. So if you see me Control Z and like, wait, you did that? No, I just moved it because I like how it looks. And then this here again, I'm gonna do it a little bit flatter, slightly. And then next line, I'm gonna up the intensity a bit more. I feel like they're a little bit more harsher. And this one ends there, continues here, and it's like a C shape, and there's one in between them, if you notice. Boop. Again, we are establishing that, kind of just dissipating slightly, and we have I have another one over here that gives me how it looks from the bottom, and I love that. I was like, yes, I found it. It's very rare to kind of find images from like the bottom up, at least for me. So I was like, oh, awesome. So I put it like that. Is it matching? Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. This might be a little bit flatter here. Just a bit. We need to establish more of the chin, but this helps so much. I was like, oh, I'm so excited that I found that. And that's how you know I'm a character artist, that I found awesome references. And I would say overall 3D artist, but at least from this view, character artist is like, yes, found that. So now from here, I'm gonna soften that, and we complete it. We complete that, okay? Maybe we need this one a bit more. We have the second one, which is this one. This one might be a little bit too intense, so I'm gonna soften it there. It kind of just blends in a bit more there. And then we have this one at the back that wants to go all the way around. And then soften all that, soften. And if you notice, I am not doing this. I am going with the vertical direction, and that helps with creating the volume. This also helps, but I feel like it's less round. Like it's not rounding around those folds as much. So that's why I kind of cross hatch or just go in the opposite direction, and it kind of helps me establish that shape a bit easier and a bit cleaner. I think that's the word, a bit cleaner. Oh, we have another question. Great questions, keep them coming. So, do you customize your brushes or you stick to defaults? I do both depending on what I need to do. Most of my defaults for like clay buildup, dam standard, I leave those defaults. But again, it will depend on what I have to do. If there's a specific detail that I need, then I will start customizing them. I'll be like, oh, maybe let me change the alpha. Let me, maybe do more intensity or add some color or whatever I need to do for that. Or most of the time it's going to be the alpha. So depending on what I need to do, but most of the time I keep them default. I feel like because I know which brushes I use and which ones I like, I just keep them default. If I need anything extra, then I would create it or I would find it. There's amazing artists out there that create awesome brushes, awesome custom brushes. So it will be depending on what I need to do. What is that I need to do at that time or at that point. Now we have to look at the folds from the front, because again, look at how wiggly they look. They shouldn't be looking that wiggly. So I'm gonna go and establish again the shape, because we kind of went through that shape and just roughed it up a bit. I'm gonna go in the front view and I'm gonna smooth, or not smooth, but move those so they don't look so wiggly. And then within those, we can always go back to those and make them round, right? Vertical strokes, vertical strokes, vertical strokes, vertical strokes. And I round it out. And I'm still going, this is going more to secondary detail. So we already passed essentially the blockout, right? We are more in secondary detail. I just want to kind of mention that because we are going more in depth into that, and we're like, okay, I need this to be a little bit more volume. But blockout already passed. We already established the eyes. We already established where the nose is, where the mouth is. So this is more of going in, honing those shapes, honing the volumes. How is it looking? Is it looking fluffy? Is it looking, flat? And things like that. But that's actually going in the right direction, I think. So now from here, this is where I'm going to stop with the face. Maybe establish the nose a bit more. Maybe a little bit more. So it looks a little bit more complete, if anything. I'm going to establish the nose. Again, if I do Dynamesh, that resolution should hold it. If that resolution is not holding the nose, this is where I would also kind of just pump it up a little bit more so it holds it. Because again, the point of this is to establish the shapes and make sure that every part of the head, it has the same quality. So mouth is looking very similar in quality to the eyes, similar with the nose, similar with the neck. Everything should have a more cohesiveness overall. You don't want to just stay within one place. That's why you see me jumping a lot in a lot of places, because if I stay only in the eyes, I'm going to be there for like 5 hours. So you want to make sure that when you're starting something, you jump around a lot. You're like, okay, let me go a little bit in the mouth, a little bit in the ears, a little bit in the eyes. And that's going to help a lot establish the overall shapes instead of just focusing on one thing for a lot of time, which I would not recommend. And that's going to make you faster too. I feel like that's made me faster. Like why I'm so fast kind of creating overall the sculpts, it's because I do that a lot. And then I'm going to establish a nose, and I'm going to call it a day for now on the nose. Then I'm going to go around and kind of just soften some areas that look a little bit crunchy to me, like the chin. This area here looks a little bit crunchy. That I actually might like the crunchy there. And then these I will soften it a bit. And then we at least have a good established Grinch face, if you noticed, right? So after this, everything will be more of doing tertiary detail and adjusting the proportions within the face. But at least a good blockout we do have. So I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to establish this volume here because I know it's very, like, chunky. And you hear me say these words. That's what I think when I'm, like, doing things. I'm like, is this chunky? Is this too flat? Is this bony? It helps me understand the feeling of it when you are seeing it visually. And I do talk to myself. I say this to my students all the time. When I'm sculpting in class, I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I do talk to myself, which I do. When I'm sculpting, it helps me. It helps me a lot, and just relax and just, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? I know I'm gonna fix this later, but that's fine. And then I'm going to kind of bring the neck a bit more down. I don't know, I'm feeling it a little bit too up still. And then I'm going to flatten those edges because I think I want that. Oh yeah, a little bit of a rough look. Love that. Rough, 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 rough. Kind of just do that. And I feel like he would have a thicker neck from the side. So I'm going to thicken that slightly a bit. From the side, not from the front. Okay. And then I'm going to save. Save that again. And then smooth that out. And we're going to need to kind of look at this again because I forgot to smooth this at the bottom. And he has a very, very wider kind of like chin structure. So I'm going to slightly add a little bit more volume, just very slightly, so it merges my chin with his like mouth area, okay? Very, very, very lightly. And this is just small strokes of my clay buildup. But I want this to feel round, and it might be a little bit too wide, but it's okay. We can always move it, but at least you have the volumes there. And this here might be there, and then this here might be here. And then I'm gonna do the center line. And this is gonna be just me doing a line. If it's not straight, let's imagine it's straight, okay? No, that's actually not bad. Not bad. Sometimes I'm like, oh, let's imagine it's straight. Okay. So now here, I'm going to establish the bottom lip, or the top lip, sorry. Because if I leave it like this, it looks a little off. It just looks a little bit too soft. It is slightly soft, but it's not as much. So I'm just going to do very lightly a line and then soften it, but not that intense. Intensity of the smooth tool. And this might not work because I have Dynamesh. But again, I will establish it for myself because later on I know I have to fix it. And then I'll establish it so I don't also forget that that's a shape. Which is funny because sometimes I see students, oh, I forgot about this, and I'm like, ooh, been there. Just make sure you establish it first, that you at least have it on the blockout so you don't forget things as well. I don't like that it kind of dissipated that. That's fine. There you go. That's better. And you notice that I did a little dimple there. That's just me, how I kind of like to create my mouths when I kind of do them close, because it kind of makes it feel like it's two things instead of just one melted one. So I do like a little dimple there, and can I just sometimes go down and soften it to break that. But again, I'm gonna go and establish this a bit more. I think it's gonna be rounder, but that's fine. But at least we are seeing some of that, you know, Grinch coming through, hopefully. I think the brows could be a little bit, you know, evil looking or mean looking, right? But apart from that, we're good. So now here we're gonna establish this here, which is very important for his kind of mean or angry look. Angry mean look. And then we're gonna establish a couple there, and all of these I'm going to just slightly just create them there. Again, they're not perfect. I just want to establish they're here, they're from here to here, they're from here to here. That's a little bit too much. And then I'll do everything. And this is more tertiary detail, but I like to combine my tertiary with my secondary, where I establish, like we did here on the folds, I establish directionality, how thick they are, their shape first, and then I always go in with my tertiary detail, and I go very lightly into that. But I just want to establish them for now because again, we still need to go through the hair and fur. I think this I will break symmetry on, but I will not do it now. I will do it later. I don't like to do symmetry break up until the end, and it's probably something I will show you guys when I finish the sculpt a bit more. I like to just give it more time to be able to just complete it as much as possible. But for now, that's good. And I'm gonna flatten. Do I want to flatten that? No, I want to actually sculpt it a bit more down so it blends a bit more. And then he doesn't have that much intensity on the cheekbones, so we might need to pull this back down a bit more, because if you see, the intensity is like barely there. So I'm gonna go down slightly, but not too much, because I actually want him to be cheekbony in the way that I am sculpting it. But I don't want to lose that, so I'm not gonna go too hard onto that. I don't like how these are kind of going up as well. So this is where my time goes mostly. This is where most of my time kind of just I spend it on this, because I'm like, do I like how I created that? Do I like how I created this one? Is this flowing well? Is it not flowing well? This is kind of like the creative process for me. Do I like that weird edge there? No, I don't. It doesn't look as natural. Do I like how that one is just going straight? Oh, sorry, I pressed V. If you press V, it will go and turn everything into black. Just press V. V as Valerie, back again. Do I like how that's kind of just... No, I don't. Then these, you know, I need to move it more. Things like that. That's what I do. But let's leave it as is for now. And I know that chin is still not chinning. This is just me taking the move tool and kind of moving things around a bit more as I see them. And then I know what I'm missing in my chin. It's that nice line that goes when it meets the mouth. That's what we're missing. And then the mouth might be a little bit too out, but I do want him to have that little pout that we talked about before. So I'm gonna leave it like that. I like it. I have that creative liberty on this one. Might not need to be that much later on, but it's fine. So I'm going to soften a couple things here and there. I don't like how this line is working from this specific view. So I'm going to go and kind of just, meh, you know, there you go. And then kind of go back again. And a lot of this surface is going to be fixed later on when I start doing my tertiary, almost secondary, end of tertiary. Because if you notice, there's a couple of grooves here and there that you're like, why is it looking like that? Well, I have to go over it and kind of just soften them a little bit, and then clay build up so the surface itself is working together. But I do that as I see it, so it's not an issue. I'm not worried about it too much for now. But we have established a face. Let's establish everything else, because again, we don't want to focus on just one thing. We have other things that we need to focus on, and we have the brows, and we have the mohawk that I want so much. I think it looks pretty awesome. So let me see. We can do it a couple ways. Just gonna show you the appending way. That's gonna be the easier way. You always, because the way. Okay, the two ways that we have is going to be the masking, so you can always mask. Let me save this. That reminds me of that. And I know it autosave, but I just don't trust autosave sometimes. I'm just like, trauma, you know? Trauma of saving and not saving and losing things. It happens. So, looking a little weird there. Sorry, I'm just looking around at 3/4. I'm like, looking a little off there. Okay, so now we established a face. Now let's do the hair. You can do, like I was saying, you can do the masking technique where you can mask the area that you want the hair to, you know, kind of just extract that piece, start a base from there. We can do that. I went to Photoshop before, and I was like, okay, how am I going to separate this? I would recommend every time you're doing hair, you do this. This is very good. There's tons of videos out there if you want to watch them on the why this is really good to have, but for me it's going to be more organized for yourself, less messy when you start creating hair, and chunks is going to be the best way to go for it. You can always merge these things, you can always dynamesh them, but establishing the silhouette, the volumes are going to be easier on with chunks and different pieces. At least that's what I've discovered. But again, you try it yourself and see which is better for you. I did notice something here, but again, I'm not on the face. I'm noticing all the things that I have to fix, and I'm like, let's go to the hair. So now, the first thing that I want you to try out is going to be, of course, the masking, kind of going around, pushing things around. You can 100%. I'm just going to do a pen, and I'm going to actually visible count lower this because we don't have a lot of poly or subtools in here, so it doesn't need to be that long. And then I'm going to go and append. And as I see, these are very, you know, it's very chunky. I can do this a couple ways, but the way that my brain is like, let's do it this way this time, is going to be, I'm going to establish an entire shape, and then we're going to create the different chunks. I think that's going to be easiest, or more readable. So I'm going to do an entire shape, and that means I can do the masking, or I can just do a sphere, right? We're going to do a sphere, and we're going to put it right there. And you're like, that looks a little weird, Valerie. And I'm like, I know. But now from here, oh, we do have another question. So another question before we continue. What keeps you excited about creating even after all these years? And what advice would you give students still searching for their creative voice? Ooh, that gives me chills. That question was great. Because it gave me chills because, oof, the struggle. And I'm again, I'm not gonna lie to you, there's struggles in keeping creative. There's struggles in just pushing forward with your projects, or there's struggles. Struggles do happen. I feel like what kind of kept me going was that I realized that I always wanted to do this. Not specifically characters, because I never knew that I wanted to do characters since the beginning. That's something that kind of came up later in my path in life, because it kind of opened. I didn't have that kind of option when I was a kid, or that kind of like, again, option, or it wasn't a thing when I was a kid. So when I kind of discovered that path, when I came to study at Full Sail many years ago, then that kind of opened. I was like, oh, I actually want to do this. And I went through the process and I enjoyed doing it. And that's what's keeping me. The sense of that I love what I do. And again, I've had struggles. I've been burnt out. I've been like, do I know what I'm doing in life? I've definitely had those. It's normal. It's part of it. It's part of the process. I just think that you should just keep going if you know that you want to do this. Just keep going. Just keep swimming. That's what I say. I always tell myself, just keep swimming. And that's what helped me. Just understanding I really do like this. I may take a break, which I have. I have taken breaks. I have been like, okay, maybe I don't want to be creative at this point. Let me take a break. Let me reset. In those breaks, I've learned new things. I've learned soap making, which you're like, oh, that's totally random. I'm like, I know, but maybe at that point in time, I was like, maybe I don't want to, sculpt at this point in time. I felt burnt out. Let me try something else that's creative, that's going to keep me in that creative mentality without overwhelming me. And that helped me. So I would say look for something different that you can just be, and always make sure you come back to it, because that's one of the things that I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, well, you've been doing this for a long time, so I understand that you feel burnt out. And I'm like, I know, I do feel burnt out. Take a break. It's okay to take a break. Come back to it. As long as you come back to it, you'll be fine. So that's my personal recommendation, because I've been through it and I came back to it because I love what I do. I like doing this. I love hanging out with everyone here at Full Sail, and I love teaching. So just find what you love and keep going through it. That's my recommendation to you. And then the second one was, what advice would you okay, so what advice would you give students still searching for the creative voice? As well, same thing. Keep trying new things. Keep trying everything. Try everything, and you're gonna find it. I feel like a lot of times we are worried about not being in the point that we should be. But if you keep trying things, you keep opening more doors, that will kind of give you the answer that you need. But we don't know it yet because we don't go through those things, right? But just keep going through different doors, keep trying different things, and that will open the path that you need to be at that point in time. I feel like that's really, it helped me, because again, I went through those. I went through the thoughts of, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? Should I keep doing this, right? Especially as a character artist, it's very difficult sometimes to kind of go through it, right? So it's like, I've been through it, but I kept going through it. So keep going through those doors, keep trying new things, and that's going to help you. Yes, that's a great question. Made me a little teary because I'm like, oh, I've been there. So you're not alone. So, continuing this. We're going through the hair, right? We're going through the hair. First things first, I like to establish the shape. So we're going to go with that mohawk. I love it. It looks awesome. We're going to go and dam standard, and I'm going to cut all this, but be smart about where you cut it, because remember, we are trying to establish the hairline. This is a blockout. So I'm going to establish, or I'm going to push the mesh a bit more to the back. Can I just have like a little, there you go. There you go. That's better. Just establish an overall shape. And then, let me drink some water. Okay. And then I'm going to go with a damn standard, and I'm going to be like, where's my hairline? What are we doing, right? So from here, I'm going to do damn standard, and you can do like almost like a triangle, right? At least for him. And then I'm going to establish that round shape across his face. And I may notice that my sphere is not symmetrical. Well, let's find out first, because I do want it to be symmetrical at this point, at least a blockout point. Later, I can break symmetry on anything. Then from here, I'm gonna do... What am I doing? Okay, so modify topology, mirror and weld, and you notice that it moved, right? Control Z, it moved, it was not symmetrical. So from there, I'm gonna go and establish the shape that we see right here, right? How far it is from the face, the eyes, everything. We're like, okay, how is this going? Is it going around? And it's kind of just cutting off here, and then it kind of cuts off down. And I'm gonna have a little like this is gonna be wider because I know that's gonna be where my hair is gonna be. So I'm just gonna widen a bit more. And then just play with the shape overall. You just want to make sure that you have the overall shape, okay? And then we can always go back and check on the front one. This is a little bit of inspiration. I thought it was cute. Do I have a front one? I should have a front one around here somewhere. I guess I do only have sides. That's fine. We can use this 3/4-ish front. And then we know that this is a little bit flatter, right? That's fine. We want to establish the boundaries of it. This is going to be around here. And then I take a tree dynamic and I just flatten that. And that's just to create the angle from the hair to the back. And I just flatten those a little bit, just a bit, not too much. And it looks a little funny right now, but it will make sense. This is just the base. You want to establish the direction, you want to establish the volume, you want to establish all that. And this is probably going to kind of just merge down, to be honest. That's how I see it. It kind of just like kind of goes around the neck. So we can do that as well. We can just establish it around here somewhere. And I'll take clay buildup and I'll start very, very like big strokes scratching on it. Just scratch, 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 scratch. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Scratch, 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 scratch. That's what I think when I do this. Scratch, scratch, scratch. So now I go around and I just scratch all that. And then we have a little nice, kind of like little wig, right? Little nice wig there. You can definitely, and I would suggest, do Dynamesh on it. Because again, we're establishing the block out of this. Dynamesh is fine for this. I do polish on that one. Yeah, sure, it doesn't matter. It's not gonna affect me too much. Most of this is gonna be covered by things that I'm gonna put on top. And then this is where I start doing my mohawk. Again, you can do it in different ways. You can do it in chunks, or you can do it in one piece, which I think I'm gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna try it out and see if it works out. So, do I want to? Yes. I'm thinking. And it could be snake hook. I can show you snake hook, but let's see how it works. So snake hook, BSH is the hotkey for it. And you can, because you already established a mesh, you can push things out. You see how this is kind of like, ooh, it's cool. You can push it out from the base. So that's why I was like, maybe I want to push it out from this. But the problem with snake hook is sometimes I need to like play with it too much, and I'm like, do I want to, or can I just establish a shape and then kind of just keep moving it? So I think I'm gonna do the shape more than anything. But as you see, I separated this in chunks in Photoshop, right? In colors. So I'm gonna probably do this one chunk, this one another. If you take advantage of the seams at the hair or the in-betweens of the hair, that's also gonna help you a lot in how you divide this. So I'm gonna go really quickly. And then I'm going to start. This is probably going to be around there. And I'm going to do it all the way. That's fine. Because it's going to be one chunk. And then there's going to be another one. And then another one there. That's fine. We can mark them or we can just leave them as this. That's fine. I'll mark that one because I think it's actually pretty large in scale for it. And then this is going to be a little bit more down. And more like that. There you go. So So now I'm gonna go and start doing the chunks. I can do the curve tool. I think I'm just gonna do at this point a sphere. I think that's what my mind is like. Just do it in a sphere, it's fine. So I'm gonna do a sphere. And I'm gonna establish that first shape and I'm gonna put it there. And I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the hair. I'm just gonna push it in and kind of move it around. It doesn't need to be that spherical. And then now I may push it. I may be like, okay, maybe I do want to just push this all the way here, but I'm gonna turn Dynamesh within the sphere because I want to make sure that I can hold that shape when I push it more extremely. And then again, you can use snake hook, you can use the move tool like I'm just doing. I like to establish how long it's gonna be. And then I start moving the shapes a bit more. So I can be like, okay, that's gonna be one chunk. And then you're like, oh, it looks a little weird, Valerie. I'm like, yeah, I know. We can always go back to this, Dynamesh it, and then kind of just start getting the shapes that you want. I feel like that's a little bit more flatter. So something I do want to see is if from the front, it's two things. So you might want to just do one side and then mirror the other and they kind of meet. You can also do that. But again, we're just establishing the basic shapes. Basic shapes, we're not going into too much detail yet. Because if you go into too much detail very fast in the hair, it gets messy. So from there, I would say, okay, let me establish the shape, and then there's 3 more. But let me get this one a little bit better because I still feel like it's a little bit wonky. So I'm gonna go and establish the point, which we still have a very triangular point there, so don't forget about that. And I might soften or flatten these. I don't know, I feel like I want to flatten these for the stylized hair. Yeah, I'll flatten them. And I'm just using turn dynamic. Just creating that. And then from there, let's say that this is the best shape you've ever seen in your life. You're like, oh, this looks amazing. Whoa, then we're just gonna duplicate this. First of all, I am going to hit E and I'm gonna go with the gizmo and I'm gonna go and hit Control while I move this, and that will duplicate. And then you can always be like, okay, this needs to be a little bit smaller. And I'm focusing on the silhouette more than this in the back because I can always move this or merge it. It's okay. But the silhouette, how does the silhouette look, right? And maybe I'm gonna start turning off symmetry at this point. And I'm like, okay, do I like how that looks? Is it thinner? It is definitely thinner. So when I go to thin things, I do like to do pinch, but very, very lightly. Pinch is a very, very intense brush. So you just want to tap, 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 tap. If you go too much, it's gonna do that. So just pinch a couple areas, move some things around. This is probably gonna be merged. So I'm gonna just establish it there. Then I'm gonna, again, copy this. And that's gonna be the chunkier part, top part. And then I'm gonna go and move this around and make sure that I checked it. Yeah, okay, we're good. I'm like, let me make sure that I check the time because sometimes I just involve myself in sculpting too much. Okay, question. Do I have to know how to draw to be good at this? I think there's basics that you do need to understand so you can translate from 2D to 3D. I think there's some basic things that you should know. But I also feel like 2D and 3D are two different things. Right? I do 2D and I do 3D, but I feel like it's easier for me in 3D. So my brain understands how to do and sculpt really faster in 3D more than maybe do it in the same equivalent in 2D. But I do know both, but I feel like you should have at least some basic knowledge, right? Layering, texturing, colors, you know, color wheel, anything like that, you want to kind of know that. And then those will translate to 3D. That's my answer to that. I would say at least a basic knowledge go for it, especially in anatomy. If you're doing anatomy, I think it does help a lot. Don't think it's 100% necessary, but it is good to know. But I always say it's good to know anything that you can, right? We don't know everything. I don't know everything. I just learn as much as I can, right? I always say, if I don't know something and you do, teach me how to do it. Tell me how to do it, so that way I know too. So I'm always like with that mindset, okay? But yeah, I would say a basic understanding should help or will help. But again, try it out in 3D and see how that looks, because your brain might understand it easier in 3D more than 2D. I think I pinched that too much, but I like it. I kind of do. And this is a little bit more pinched. I want that to be a little bit thicker, and I'm just piling these out a little bit more, and I'm still deciding how I want the hair, so I'm just establishing the shapes. That's it, because I feel like I want them to be like almost like round and up instead of just flat. Yes, that's what my brain is telling me to do, and I'm like, yes, I do trust you. Okay, so now I'm just layering these together, and I'm gonna keep doing the same thing that I was doing, but I feel like these are a little bit too big. At least this one. Let me see. Yeah, it's slightly a bit too big. So I'm gonna turn it into a poly group to be able to select that a little bit easier, because right now we have 3 poly groups, and well, 1 poly group, and they're the same. So I'm gonna go poly groups, outer groups, different colors, and that way I can control shift select that, and then it's gonna be easier for me to kind of move around. So I feel like this is a little bit too big overall. So I'm just moving it around, and I think it has to do with the fact that it's a little bit too far off. That's what it is. And then from there, same thing. And then I would continue doing that all the way to the back. Places where it gets a little bit more chunky, like this right here, like this, I would probably sculpt that. So I would go in here, and that's why I kind of established that there, because I'm like, oh, I can actually play with that. So I will slightly go a little bit more flatter wherever your hairline is. That's gonna just make it easier for later transition. So I'm gonna go slightly kind of like that, and I'm gonna go in this direction from this view, and I'm following that shape a bit more, and this is the direction that I kind of want to go with, like that kind of stroke of the brush. But yeah, and then kind of like that, and again we're building it where we have, that's a no, sorry, automatic or dynamic subdivision, that's a no, we don't need those for now. And then I want to kind of just have some spikiness here and there, but whenever I start putting these a bit more with different shapes like chunks, then I would establish the spikiness at the bottom a little bit better, because I feel like it goes into a point. If you notice, it kind of goes into a nice point, so I kind of want to have that there. And then whenever I start putting the other shapes, I will already have that there established. So I'm gonna establish that, and again this will go all the way around. And I feel like he almost have like a mohawk kind of just meeting in the center right here. So it's probably gonna be a meeting of the hairs right there. That's how I visualize it, but I would probably look for a concept on the back of his head and see if that looks better, because I feel like it's a little bit wider, but again, it could be wider. You just want to make sure that you have it not so flat. So I'm gonna go around and just kind of creating a wig type. And then this right here, again, we're gonna go very flat where your hairline is. And I'm gonna go a little bit flat. You can always also use weave. The weave one, I like it a lot because it gives me that almost like, and let me get closer, like streaky look, and I love that. So you can also start establishing that streaky look and kind of just go all the way around. You can do additive or subtractive, whichever kind of just helps you. I feel like additive kind of just gives you a cool feeling. But again, I will add these, but I will eventually, again, kind of get rid of them when I start doing, or I start dynameshing, because it will kind of get rid of them a bit. So I might have to go back and polish, turn off polish, and higher resolution there, so it holds it when I dynamesh. But I will do the same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. Just establish some kind of like transition between that. And you can also do the hair as an entire thing. I don't tend to do that because it gets a little bit hectic at first. But I always like to establish the shape first. So I'm gonna do shape there, and then start kind of just pushing those again. And then we're starting to get somewhere, which is good. Okay, we still have a couple minutes, so we're good. So now we're gonna go and continue kind of pushing around, building these that are missing, and then we're gonna just combine them all and see how that looks. If I don't like it, I can just always uncombine or Z back. But again, this is just testing. This is just, that's how you should be doing your sculpting. Test it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Change it. Okay, so I don't like that it's flat. So I already established that for myself. I can always change that. And I know that some of these are a little bit more expanded, and these might be a little bit thicker. But I already established that for myself, which is nice, because I know I want to change it later. So now here, I'm gonna go and I can duplicate this first beginning one. I like to utilize that a lot. I like to just duplicate the ones that I have. That way I don't have to reshape things again. Let me see if I select everything correctly, because there you go. There you go. I'm just selecting these and duplicating back and see if I like that. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's a little bit wiggly. I don't know. Again, I know that I am going to eventually do this because I want them thicker. So I'm just probably going to do inflate. So I'm going to go inflate this one a bit more. And I'm just tapping a bit. Just a little tap. And it will inflate it. If you go too much, it will do that. Right? So we probably don't want that. And I'm not going to inflate all of them. I like the ones that are a little bit thinner, smaller. And then if you go too much with the inflate, you can always go back again with the pinch and then just pinch it. Pinch it to your liking. I like that. There you go. And that should work a bit more. But I know this piece, and I know that piece is going to kind of go like that. Yeah. Yep. So then it's fine if these two are overlapping themselves. I'm probably going to merge them. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna merge them. I don't like them separated. There you go. So from there, that one, this is gonna be that piece, and it could go again if we're just doing half of it. If we're doing the mohawk as one piece in the middle, we can, or you can do two sides that kind of meet in the middle, which I think I'm gonna do because I don't think I like it on one piece, but we'll see. And then this one is still bothering me. I know it goes down a bit more. There you go. And then we establish that this curve is a little bit more curvy. And then a little bit thinner, 100%. Cool. And then I know eventually you're going to be seeing me and do this and start kind of sculpting on it. I know I'm going to have to do that because it's just how I am with the hair. I'm like, I don't think I like that super simple shape, and I'm going to start sculpting on it, and that's going to be my my continue video that I'm going to share with you all because I know I'm going to be like perfectionist towards the hair. So now from here I'm going to go over here and I'm going to keep doing that, keep doing what I was doing. I'm going to go and duplicate this one. This one's might be a little bit too thick. Yep, because we're blocking it out. Let's not unfocus. We are blocking this out, okay? So if we're blocking this out, that means we are blocking it out. We're not focusing on what I was doing, that I was started to do some of the details on it. It happens, trust me, it happens. You just have to make sure that you pull yourself back and you're like, oh wait, I'm going too far on this. There's other stuff that are missing in this piece for me to just be focusing on one thing. And as long as you have that, you'll be fine. And I think I like that one kind of like wobbly like that. Okay, so that one is good. And then I'm going to duplicate this one again. And kind of just... And again, we can move them as we need them. I just want to make sure they're there. Great questions. Keep them coming. Keep them coming if you have more. We almost are about to finish in a couple of minutes, so I want to at least establish these shapes so we can see the entire thing and see how we can, you know, move things around more. Then this one is a big one, and I know I'm gonna have to do that, so I'm gonna slightly put it to the side. And I'm going to just... these are too similar, so I don't like that. And then I'm going to just slightly soften that. Put it to the side. This is going to go up a bit more, and it kind of curves more. And it kind of goes thin, thick, thin. So thick at the bottom, thin here. So I can always go into this one. Ooh, let me make sure that these are polygroups separated so we can control them a bit better. And then again, this goes very, very thin. And don't worry about the little wisps and things because that will come out later. Like this is just establishing the overall shapes. The little wispiness and the very thin hairs on the tip, that can now actually be established later on. This is just, where is my shape going? Is it going? Is it not going? I like that better. And then this one here in the back kind of just creates this shape. That's why it's really nice to go into Photoshop and do that. Because look at this triangle right here where it creates between these two that you are going to need, right? And it helps you like, oh wait, I don't have the triangle there. Let me go back and see if I can achieve that. And you can always move these around and be like, okay, maybe I need to actually move these. So it creates a nice triangle, at least the best to your ability. Then BPI, pinch that. I'm gonna pinch all this. And all these at the bottom, they're gonna be one thing. So I'm just placing them all together. They're gonna be one big thing. I'm not going to have them separated, at least at the bottom. I feel like it would be nice if we kind of merge them because that way I can just go through this and, you know, sculpt. I think it will be nice, but at least establishing those shapes is good. So maybe I'm going to slightly keep this a bit flatter so it doesn't go too separated from the others. And then all this is going to be one big chunk. I'm just establishing the silhouette of the tip of the hair. And then this one could be one thing, but to be honest, it's going to be one thing up until here. And then when I start doing the wisps of the hair, then it will be just separate hair. So I'm probably going to do that, going a little bit lower. Make sure you look all the way around, okay? You want to change the shapes of your hair as much as possible. And I want this to already be one thing, so... Like I said, hair takes time, so this is gonna take time. If you are following along with this, take your time, look at your shapes, understand what you're doing. I actually like that this is more chunky here, so I'm probably gonna push that there, and I'm gonna have this a little bit more chunky, and then I'm gonna save because I haven't saved. I'm gonna save. And it looks a little off. You're like, Valerie, what does it look a little off? You can always take the entire thing and then push it to the side, like we mentioned before, right? And then you're like, okay, cool. Now I can just slightly kind of rotate it in. So you see how I kind of rotated it in to kind of match that kind of center? And then you can always bring it back and be like, okay, cool. I can, and this is me jumping ahead, by the way, just to show you. Because again, hair takes time. So I want to take my time after this and be like, okay, I want to make a cool video for you all and just overall understand what I did with the hair. But if you wanted to jump ahead, you want to do modify topology, mirror and weld. And let me actually do that a bit better. Let me turn off symmetry. I kind of like to have it a little bit to the side because you don't want it to crash it within itself. It will be based on the center of the floor. So if you notice this green Y line, it's going to be kind of based on that. So whatever's right or left of that line and you mirror it and it's in between that line, it will crash. It will kind of just not mirror it itself, okay? So just be aware. That's why I kind of push it to the side a bit more, even though after I can probably move it, right? I can be like, okay, I want to move it a bit more, a bit closer, kind of adjust it. Maybe my hairs are going to meet a bit more. You see where it starts to get thickness, maybe too much symmetry. But again, it starts to give you a little bit more wider kind of shape of the hair where it's like structure from one side to the other instead of just in the center. So this is the idea where I'm going for, or what I'm going for eventually. Before I do that though, again, we want to establish better shapes. So I'm essentially just doing half of the mohawk and then eventually I will just mirror it and do that. And why do I want to do half only? Because that way I don't have to work with both of them at the same time. You can, but I don't have to. So I can just make this better, prettier eventually. And then that way, mirror it, call it a day, fix whatever needs to be fixed, and that's it. But for now, let's just establish a bit more of the directionality, because we do have a better silhouette. We do have some wisps here and there. That's looking good. Maybe this one will kind of just meet in the middle. That's why I'm pushing it that way. And I want it to kind of just blend in really nicely with the hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this a bit more up and kind of start just, and this is going to have to be dynameshed all together, at least the way that I want to do it for this one, because there are many ways to do it. But it's going to have to be dynamesh eventually, because if not, you're going to see that it's going to just not blend very well. Although it could, but again, take more time to it. Kind of start establishing these places a bit more. You know, maybe this follows with this. So that's how you start getting this to blend more without dynameshing. So you're like, oh, I want that to be like that, and kind of just follow through with that. Definitely is a possibility. You see how it starts looking a little bit less blended. Also make sure they're both the same resolution. That should help. They're both the same resolution. But if you don't want them together, you can always blend them this way. Utilize the natural seams as much as possible. But at least we are establishing, cool, we have one side, the other one looks a little off, but then we eventually will start getting into that. But for now, let's just focus on this specific view, because this is the one that's going to be, that we're going to kind of work on a bit more, okay? So from now, I do want to implement before we head out, because we're almost at that time. Wow, you see how this is just so fast. It's very fast. Question before. Okay, so is the equipment you're using what's included in the launch box? I would say that would be a question more for any representative in Full Sail, because I am staff, so we are within the same, we have similar things to keep everything cohesive, but I'm not sure if this is the one. So that question, I would say call Full Sail University and get acquainted with all the information. But I know you guys do receive launch boxes. I know it also depends on what program. So that's more of a Full Sail question. Because I don't want to say yes and then they're like, nope, that's not it, right? So just call them, ask them, and they'll be glad to kind of give you more information regarding where specifically you are aiming for. Game art, D&D, design, film, things like that. So you want to be more specific to where you're going to. So I would say call them. And they'll definitely be glad to help you and give you more information towards that. So the only thing that's bothering me right now is, yes, we have to continue with the hair, but let's not forget his eyebrows. He does have eyebrows, right? He does. So that's going to be the last thing that we're going to kind of block out really quickly before we hit out, okay? So very simple. The way that I see this, it could be hair cards, but we're going to go with sculpting on this one, okay? So that means I see a cylinder and I see like just the wisps at the end. Very, very easy that you can do that. You can implement a cylinder, shape it 100%. And the way that I see a cylinder, it's not this image. What is the image that I saw? I was like, wow, that's like a cylinder. Like this one, it was this one. So you see how you have a cylinder here and then you have the wisp at the end? That's kind of like the way that my brain is like, oh, I can break that down easier. So I'm gonna go and fix this one here. It's bothering me a bit. There you go. And again, this is going more for a realistic-ish character type, so it's gonna take some time to establish a lot of these. Give it its time, okay? Give it its time for it. It deserves its time. That's what I always say. So for now, really quickly, we can do a curve or we can just bring in a cylinder. Let's do a curve. You know what? Let's do a curve. Curve tube. Brush, really, really nice. You can just click and drag, and then we have a cylinder. And I would say actually that's not a bad placement. Oh wow, I surprised myself. I'm gonna go a little bit less in scale. I think it's too thick, so I'm gonna, yeah, it looks good. That looks good. And then for everything else, we can always I'm thinking, because I want it to kind of just curl a bit more, so it could be either a couple of curves. Sure. Or it could just be a cube and then I kind of sculpt on the cube. It can also be a sphere and you can sculpt on the sphere. Same thing we did on the hair. But again, that's a work in progress. So that's for later. So for now, for the hair or the eyebrows in here, I am going to do Dynamesh. I always do Dynamesh at first. Not necessary at this point. We can also do subdivision levels on this because it's very clean topology in the cylinders. So first of all, I'm gonna make sure that I separate those. So I'm gonna subtool, split. I'm gonna split two parts. And I have to hit OK with my mouse because there you go. And then now I have this and I have these separated. So I'm just gonna do one and then duplicate it eventually. I always do one and then duplicate it. And then for now, I'm gonna go and weave. You can do weave, or you can just do damn standard. Either way is fine. And then I'm gonna divide. And then I hope that you're seeing what I'm seeing, because I am definitely seeing it. But it's gonna be this type of kind of like, I'm gonna go a little bit more deeper on that edge. It doesn't need to be that edgy. And then I'm gonna go into here. And don't worry about the other side again. Then I'm gonna move this slightly. And then I'm going to kind of just start kind of scratching at it. And again, you can use weave as well, because weave will give you a little bit more of that shape, which actually I do like. It's not going to be as deep as that. And then you can always kind of just start directionally, okay? We're not going to just be like, oh, this is great, right? Directionally, see the direction of the hair, see the direction of the fur, and see if that works for you. That might be a little bit too much. And then I would probably directionally kind of just scratch on it a bit. Some areas a little bit more bigger because you see how it kind of cuts off a bit. And then I can always adjust the size and things like that. But overall, maybe a little bit more solution. There you go. But overall, I like that. I like that. And I'm going to go a little bit more in and more out. Can I just give it a little bit more? And then BPI, which is And again, we're starting the base, so do I like it? Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Maybe a little bit too noisy, but we can always soften that. And then again, from here, BPI, kind of just tap it a bit if it's too thick. And then I would complete it with the kind of like sweepy kind of wee that we have here in the side. And it could be many ways. It could be sculpted, like I said, sphere. It could be a plane. It could be a hair card. It could be so many options on that. But if you're following along at home, I would say I will leave that to you. But at least we have an established one there, and I don't want to do any more in the sense of that specific shape. I'll just duplicate it and then continue it. But again, I will leave all that to you if you follow it at home. You will definitely be seeing me continue with this because I do want to go a little bit more deeper into tertiary details. Fortunately, again, it takes a long time. But I think we came to a point where we established a good face, which I am proud of. I knew that the hair needs to be its own thing because hair is always gonna take time. But at least I'm happy with how the face overall works and reads, and he looks almost angry already, and I still haven't put the emotion yet. So, which is really, really interesting. But you will be definitely seeing a time lapse of this when I finish this over the holidays. Hopefully before the holidays, actually. I will send it to you for a Christmas gift. There you go. But thank you, everybody, for the questions. They were great, okay? So they were great questions. Thank you for tuning in, watching this. If you've watched them before, thank you for coming back again. I love it and I enjoy doing these. And I think we just have a good time just talking and having a conversation, which is kind of what I like to do in life, okay? So I appreciate you all and for coming by and, again, being here with me and having fun and just talking about art. If at any point, just let me know. Contact me. We can talk. We can have a conversation. I love that. I hope you all have a happy holidays overall and that you enjoy with family and friends and that you get that sense of just happiness. I hope you all have happiness this year because I know it's been a rough year for some of us, so we just gotta keep swimming. That's what I always say. Keep swimming. But yes, thank you everyone for tuning in and I appreciate you all. Have a happy holidays and I'll see you around.